in a sense, in a perverse sense, COVID-19 is a bit of a blessing because it's put many organizations in a situation where their salespeople have to work from home for an extended period of time. It's a very interesting experiment that's been thrust upon us. And I would encourage organizations to treat it as an experiment and to harvest the intelligence very, very carefully that comes from this experiment, and to use that intelligence to make decisions very carefully about how you're going to structure sales post-crisis.
The sales, it's not outside activity anymore. This is truer than ever before.
Yeah, so I think there are two things we don't need.
Yeah.
We don't need salespeople fussing over what I would call business as usual revenue. The revenue that comes in from existing customers automatically, repeat purchases. We do not need salespeople fussing over repeat purchases. We do not need salespeople looking after accounts, maintaining relationships, or any of that. I was going to use a profanity, any of that stuff.
But many companies, they have not managed this change so far. Do you think this is a good idea?
Well, this is why pandemics are good. Because it weeds out those companies that couldn't be bothered to think ahead to the benefit of those companies that can.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it, 2020? If it's a surprise to you today that business is not being done over Zoom conferences, and you need a pandemic to bring it to your attention, then maybe you shouldn't be in this space competing anyway. Maybe you should go get a job somewhere else. The reality is that if you're in business, you don't have to perform according to some sort of platonic standard. You simply have to beat your competitors. It's like the story about the two boys in the forest when the bear approaches. You know that one?
No.
No.
One of the boys reaches into his backpack and pulls out a pair of running shoes. And as he's lacing up his running shoes, the other boy says to him, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." And he says, "Well, I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun you." And I think that's the case. You simply have to do better than your competitors.
The way salespeople behave is often an effect of the sales environment and how the sales is designed. And you actually touch it and solve it in your approach. The sales machine is fixing the environment, sales environment, and creating a more healthy environment where people perform on the best and focus on delivering the most of it.
And I think you could apply the same logic to a lot of these questions. How do you motivate people? How do you make people trustworthy? How do you, my favorite one is, how do you get rid of communication problems? I go into organizations and they say, we have communication problems. Bullshit, you do. Human beings do not have communications problems. We are extraordinary communicators. Who communicates better than humans? No one. We don't have communication problems. 6-year-olds have fantastic communication skills. These are organization design problems manifesting as interpersonal conflict. And it's only a lazy manager who would interpret this interpersonal conflict as a communication problem, because you're assigning blame to the individual and you're creating the feeling that if we put these two people in a room and maybe train them how to form better arguments, or train them how to have higher emotional EQ, then we will resolve those problems. You won't resolve those problems. They're baked into the design of the organization.